Kevin Hunter and Jody Summers here on Health Kindness on Northwest Digital News. And we're going to talk about all these different signs that your body gives you when things aren't quite working out so well health-wise for you. And if you would, put up the check engine light for us because, you know, when your car's not doing too well, you get either this battery sign or low oil or check engine. Sometimes it starts flashing and tells you things about to blow up if you don't pull over. Well, your body gives you these kinds of signals as well, and a lot of people just kind of ignore them, but they do point to specific challenges and issues in the body. So where would you like to start, Jody?
You know, I mean, we could go on every week. We could do this exact one because it just goes on and on and on. So many of these symptoms mean something. And I just picked 8 of the most frequent, but here I'm going to ask you questions. So if you have leg cramps and you have pain in the arches of your feet and your eyes twitch, you're having osteoporosis or rapid heartbeat, all of those together, what do you think might be one of those causes? Any guesses at all?
Well,
is it even? I know you're cheating, but
I'm cheating. Yes.
If you walked into your doctor, they would go, okay, well, let's do high blood pressure is another one. So if you got high blood pressure, we need to put you on a medication. Your heartbeat's irregular. I'm going to run a test. And not that you don't want to run a test if your heartbeat's irregular. You're twitching. Oh, don't worry about that. That's normal. Well, all of those together have an underlying cause of a magnesium deficiency. Mm-hmm. So magnesium and calcium are 2 different nutrients. They work together. Calcium contracts and magnesium releases. Mm-hmm. So if you have cramping, hydration might be your first go-to. But again, when it's with all of these other things, you have osteoporosis and trouble with your heart and high blood pressure, hydration and magnesium are 2 of the top things that I look at as, when I work with my clients. But you might want to, if you're cramping in your leg, drink water before you go to bed with magnesium in it. Mm-hmm. So you can get it over the counter. Eat foods rich in magnesium. And when you do that, you will see some of those symptoms reduce. Now, I'm not saying if you have high blood pressure, that's always the reason. But I am saying that magnesium deficiency can cause high blood pressure.
I like that there's a banana on this picture too. I love bananas, one of my favorite foods. All right, so let's talk about this symptom of bloating, stomach discomfort. This is like such a big problem in our country that you can walk into even a convenience store these days and find an aisle full of antacids and things for indigestion. So this is very common problem. What is this pointing to?
Poor diet. Well, it can be a couple of things, but one of the things that you want to look at first is poor digestion, because your food isn't breaking down completely. So if your food's not breaking down completely, imagine that you had a machine that smushed food up, added it with water and warmth, and you left it out on the counter. Mm-hmm. It would start to smell and it would start to make gas, because that's what food does. And then it would change all of those, it would. You
muted her.
Can't get this off.
Weak or low stomach acid might be one of those reasons. And so this slide right here shows you that every part of our digestive system has a different pH. And the stomach, where it's kind of in the middle, it's a stomach cavity. When that pH is too high, which means it's a higher number, the higher the number, the weaker the stomach acid. So if either you don't make enough stomach acid or your stomach acid isn't strong enough to break the food down, then it doesn't move through quickly and you get bloating and you get gas and foul smelling, bowel movements and all of those things. So again, digestion is a north to south process. And one of the first places your food goes is in the stomach before it makes its way all the way through the intestines. And if that isn't right, the rest of the process is not going to be right.
You know what I'd add to that, because of personal and family experiences with a young daughter that went through some digestive complications and stuff like that. I'd also add that not only are you going to be experiencing these kinds of symptoms, but if you are moving poorly digested food regularly through your digestive tract, you are going to do some damage to your digestive system that can have some really long-term implications to your health.
Absolutely. It is one of the most common issues, and it does some of the biggest damage. So good, strong digestion is, we need to talk about at one point elderly people and their digestion, and it's fascinating. I mean, it's sad, but it's, it is interesting how easy it can be changed.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You're next.
All right. So we have this image here of joint pain, and there's a lot of other things that can connect with this as well. What are some of the indicators that might be there besides just something like arthritis or whatever? What could be some of the indications that we might be health challenges we might be experiencing that could lead to joint pain?
So if you have joint pain, and if you have bloating and diarrhea, if you have a lot of headaches, and you have skin issues specifically, mental health problems, you're depressed, you're anxious, a lot of joint pain can indicate, again, there's different reasons, but when you look at it, the big picture, gluten sensitivity. And here's a really good example. People who are gluten intolerant may have on the backs of their arms these little bumps. And gluten today is not like gluten of 50 years ago. It's much stronger. It's harder to digest. And especially if you go back to what we just talked about, if you don't have good, strong stomach acid, it doesn't break it down well. And now you're really adding to the problem. But gluten can cause inflammation. So even if you're looking at joint pain with arthritis, the inflammation from gluten sensitivity can actually make that worse. So again, one of the things that you might want to look at if you're having things such as bloating, diarrhea, skin issues, abdominal pain, especially abdominal pain, those little tiny bumps, go gluten-free for 90 days. Then on day 91, eat spaghetti, bread, cereal, eat a full day's worth of products with gluten in it and see how you feel. So you might not even need to go 90 days. You can go 60 days possibly, but kind of get it all out of your system and then bring it back in quickly and see how that works. And if you're not gluten insensitive, it shouldn't bother you at all.
So when people wonder how is gluten so much stronger today than it was years ago, back in the early 1900s, gluten as a percentage in wheat was like around 6%, very low, and part of what caused this increase in strength or the amount of gluten, as you referred to, is that we became an exporter of wheat all around the country for food in lesser developed countries than our own, and they kept changing this, creating these wheat hybrids, so to speak. And I don't think you can even buy seed. You can't even buy wheat seed anymore that will give you gluten like it was in the early 1900s. You are stuck with the gluten content that wheat has today, and it is in that, last I heard, 66%, even north of that. That is just more than 10 times what wheat contained in terms of gluten back in the early 1900s. So there's the problem, you guys. Your body never was designed to handle that concentration of gluten.
Correct. And that's why some people can have a little bit. Of course, if you're celiac, you can't have any, but a lot of people are just gluten intolerant. Maybe they don't have an allergy to it, but, and it doesn't make you feel good. It just doesn't. So again, if you have some of those symptoms, it might be your body saying, don't eat so much gluten.
I got to share this with you really quick. A gentleman who actually has one of the top 5 restaurants in Minneapolis, St. Paul, happens to be the maker of fire-baked pizza. And we interviewed him some time ago. And one of the things that he said in there, and this is the business owner, keep in mind, one of the things that he said, he goes, don't come to my restaurant more than once or twice a month. You shouldn't be eating pizza that often. It was just like, this is a food that you should be having once in a while. He goes, as Americans, we eat way too much of this stuff. He goes, my pizza's awesome. Come here once a month and don't mess with all the garbage that's out there. And I was just like, wow, some honesty from somebody who could financially benefit from you being there every single day. And he's saying, don't come here more than once a month. So anyway.
And it's interesting because doctors would tell you it doesn't matter what you eat. So, yeah.
Yeah. So how about for people that are waking up at night or can't get the sleep to begin with?
Well, in this case, we're looking at something that if you go to bed and you wake up 2 to 3 hours and then you can't fall back to sleep. So if you
Mm-hmm.
have that symptom, if you have a symptom of frequent urination,
Mm-hmm.
if you're thirsty a lot, if you have slow wound healing, even blurry vision. If you have blurry vision, you need to get to the doctor immediately. But you're kind of tired all the time, you may want to absolutely look at your blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So people who have blood sugar dysregulation oftentimes will go to bed and wake up 2 to 3 hours after they go to, like, they fall asleep. And here is why: when your body's processing all of that sugar, if it doesn't, sometimes it calls up the adrenal glands and the hormones that are in there, and that actually wakes you up. And
Mm-hmm.
even though there's nothing around you that wakes you up, if that is waking you up, and you're not going to fall back asleep, it's not like, I don't know, the dog bark or whatever. I'm trying to think of something that would wake you up that you could fall right back to sleep. An airplane went over. Okay, so it woke you up, but you fell back to sleep. When you wake up because of blood sugar dysregulation, you can't fall back to sleep because now you've got this hormone that needs to process through your body that keeps you awake. So it's really easy to have your A1C tested. And even though, it's recommended anything below your A1C should be below 5.7 or 5.6, that's still too high. It should be around the 5.0 range, 4.9, 4.8, 5.1, somewhere in there. Anything over 5.0 is you're getting into some blood sugar dysregulation. And so that would be a really great test to ask your doctor to take if you're having any symptoms of blood sugar dysregulation.
For anybody who's wondering, why would adrenal glands be that significant? Not only wake you up, but then you can't fall asleep. I think of examples in which people are commonly aware that your adrenal glands kick in. Like when you're out for a walk and all of a sudden a big dog comes charging out of somebody's yard and scares the snot out of you. You're not exactly going, "Oh, I need to take a nap." No, that's
Right.
called flight, and and
Yes.
and and you go into this high gear that you didn't even know you had. That adrenal gland kicking in at night is not going to add up to a good night's rest. That's for dang sure. So it makes a lot of sense. Blood sugar, people, be aware of that issue. You know what? I actually, on that note, because you have mentioned this before on this show, I actually gave that piece of advice to somebody who contacted me through social media and said that perhaps the blood sugar could be accounting for why she's not sleeping well. And I asked, do you generally eat things later in the day? And the answer was yes. And I suggested that she not eat in that 4 hour window before bedtime. And she
Mhm.
literally messaged me within days after that and say, I have never had such good quality sleep. There's not any
Mhm.
doubt whatsoever. It was a blood sugar issue that was keeping her awake. So very interesting. Let's move on and talk about dry skin issues. There's a lot of skin related issues. Even the graphic that you showed related to gluten. A lot of people
Mhm.
with skin challenges these days. What can this be a sign of?
So it's not just skin issues. It is, and I should have put this on kind of the little notes here, but it is when I have somebody come to me and
Hmm.
I give them a 300 and it's almost 350 questions. It's pretty quick to answer, but some of the questions have questions like this. Um, do you need sunglasses when you go outside? People say, oh my gosh, I can't go outside without sunglasses. Like, I can't do it. It hurts me. No, I mean, that's not saying that if you're at Disneyland all day and you wear sunglasses, there's anything wrong with that. Or you
Hmm.
drive and, okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you can't go outside because it hurts your eyes, that's not normal. It may be common, but that doesn't mean it's normal. So if you burn really easily, so you have fair skin and you sunburn a lot, um, sunburn is something that comes from the inside out. I mean, it comes from the outside, obviously, but if you have protection from the inside out, you're not going to sunburn. So some of those things, the dry skin, the needing the sunglasses, the sunburn, can all be related to essential fatty acid deficiency.
Hmm.
We eat so many bad fats in this country that we have an imbalance of healthy fats and bad fats. So most people have, I mean, 90% too much of the bad fat and not nearly enough of the good fat.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, from essential fatty acids like the omega 3s, which come from salmon, and a lot of the omega 3s. So a good quality supplement can really help here over the long term. It protects you from a lot of things, heart issues, healthy brain function, all of those things. So when you have imbalance of healthy fats, a lot of the dry skin will go away. The needing to wear sunglasses will go away. Your skin will do better in the sun. So many things will go away when your body is in balance.
Totally validating your point is I have always considered myself to be a fair-skinned, easy sunburn type person, and I just assumed that was just my makeup. That's just who I was. But we have gone through one of the hottest, driest summers. I've spent more time outdoors and for extended periods of time, more than really at any time in my life this past year, and not a single sunburn. So I'm not saying that I scientifically went through and researched all these foods to go, okay, which are the better, but I can tell you that because my nutrition has changed, I have also seen that change too. Not had a single problem with sunburning this year.
So for me personally, I have very light skin as well. I'm Polish, and so you tend to have that red Polish skin.
Yeah.
And for me, I take, and I can never say the name. It's called Astaxanthin, Astaxanthin or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's a supplement from seaweed, has high in essential fatty acids. It has good sunburn protection. I take that during the summer, and then I supplement in the winter with vitamin D, which also helps with that. So I don't supplement all year with vitamin D. I don't supplement all year with high antioxidants. I look at the sun. I'm out in the sun a lot. I'll need sun protection. I'll need internal sun protection. In the middle of winter, I'll need more vitamin D. So again, if you look at just this salmon right here, salmon provides both vitamin D and healthy essential fatty acids. So, you eat healthy food, it kind of covers the whole gamut all year.
And that salmon is one of the favorite meals on our dinner table. Let's talk about depression and bone pain.
So again, when I have someone come to me and I look at all their symptoms, if they have things like depression and bone pain and their immune system is down a lot, like they're always sick, they're always getting sick, they don't feel well, they're tired, they have muscle pain. One of the things that I always have them do, well, two tests I always have them ask their doctor for is a vitamin D test and an A1C. But low vitamin D can indicate, when you have low vitamin D, you tend to have more depression, more joint pain, more bone pain, all of those things. So again, if you have those symptoms, go to your doctor and ask for a vitamin D test. And the optimal levels, so a normal level, if you come back and your doctor says, oh, your vitamin D is fine, at the hospital that I go to, if you're between 20 and 80 on that range, you're considered normal. Well, to me, 20 is just barely over the minimum recommended amount. I'd rather be optimal, which is between 60 and 80. And so it would be a really simple test to take, and you can supplement, you can get out in the sun, you can eat vitamin D rich foods. But vitamin D deficiency can cause a lot of illness.
Mm-hmm. So I just out of curiosity, because I've heard a lot of different numbers thrown around. So when people wonder what are safe levels of vitamin D to take as a supplement, one of the things I have observed is that the FDA seems to have their RDAs wrong. If I compare this to what your body actually makes, so in the summertime, you make 1,000 IUs of vitamin D every 6 minutes, and in wintertime, it takes about 15 minutes to do that same production based on just the differences in distance in the sun. So the point is that with very little exposure to the sun, like in an hour's time, you are going to make 10,000 IUs of vitamin D. It's always kind of curious to me why the numbers are so low on the RDAs.
Okay, but you're only going to make that if you don't listen to what the government tells you, because what they're telling you is don't go out in the sun unless you're slathered with sunscreen.
Right.
Wear your hat. Well, you can't then absorb that beautiful vitamin D from the sun. And the other thing too, if you go back to those essential fatty acids that help protect from sunburn, if you're out in the sun and you have high doses of healthy fats, you're less likely to sunburn. Therefore, anything they say about, only be in the sun for 2 minutes a day, because, God forbid, other people weren't raised, all of these generations ago living in the sun, like, we see more skin cancer now, and we're in the sun less than we've ever been. It doesn't even make common sense. Well, it's because our diet is worse. We don't have internal protection. And if you go, vitamin D actually protects against cancer. So I'll get off my soapbox. It's so frustrating because it's just like this completely backward way of looking at things.
All right, let's visit about hormonal problems. And there's other things that connect with this as well, but talk about the hormone issues.
Yep. Okay, so if you have symptoms of hormonal problems, inability to feel full, you're hungry a lot of the time. Like you eat, but you're hungry again shortly after. You have dry hair, you have constant colds, you have dry eyes. You may be deficient in your fat intake. And you have problems with fat-soluble vitamins. So your vitamin D, you take enough vitamin D, but your vitamin D isn't, may not be absorbing correctly. You have bone issues. So vitamin K, especially vitamin K2, has everything to do with bone health. And so the one thing that I really find this so fascinating is that men will find this. So cholesterol is associated with testosterone. So men who have extremely low cholesterol tend to have low testosterone. Now, I know for most men, that's not really what they want, for reasons we'll not get into here. So, they go to the doctor, they're on statin drugs because their cholesterol is too high, and then they wonder why they're having problems in their love life. Well, maybe your cholesterol is not making enough, it's a precursor to testosterone. So again, sometimes you have to question this mainstream way of thinking and look at the actual results. Again, healthy fats is really where it's at. That's what we used to be born and raised on. And now, we've been convinced by food companies and pharmaceutical companies that fat is bad, when really bad fats are bad, not good fats. And good fats are what your brain is made out of, what your fat-soluble vitamins are needing, what your body needs to protect itself, what your hormones are made from. So all of those things, again, you really want to take in some good, healthy fats.
Along those lines of how important like these good fats are and how destructive these bad fats are, combined with all the other problems that occur from these bad fats. I don't know if you've seen this study on the electrical communication of cells, or if you've heard this explained this way before, but your body will use bad fats to build cells just like it'll use healthy fats to build cells. And one of the analogies that was given to me is if you took a flashlight that holds 5 or 6 batteries, and let's assume they're all good and they're all charged, and you just take one of the batteries in sequence and put cellophane plastic around it and put it back in the flashlight. Does the flashlight work? And the answer is no, because it disrupts that communication from one end of the battery column to the other. And the explanation that was given to me with these bad fats is that they create cells that disrupt communication among healthy cells. And if you're wanting to see that electrical communication in cells be reduced, just keep eating all these bad fats. So they're bad for you for a lot of different reasons, but when you think of them like that, it's just like, that hearing that piece of information was probably what drove me away from bad fats more than anything else. I was just like, wow. And then I got to wait for those bad cells that are disrupting communication. I got to wait for them to die off so a new healthy cell can be built out of good fat to replace it. It's like, I don't want to do that to myself. So It was the easy decision to focus on healthy fats, hearing that illustration. Let's talk about headaches, because besides these aisles full of the anti-acid drugs, headache medications are another one that is stocked everywhere you go. A lot of headaches out there people are having. What is this connected to?
The main reason that you might have headaches is dehydration. Dehydration can show up in your lower back. You have a headache and lower back pain, drink something. Dizziness, even vertigo, some of those kind of balance issues really can also have to do with dehydration. Actually, dehydration, So it's interesting on this chart. I didn't even think of this when I wrote it, but the top 3 nutrient deficiencies in our country is water, followed by vitamin D, followed by magnesium. And we talked about all 3 of those. And they all create their own symptoms. Now, some of those symptoms overlap. I mean, you could have a headache and high blood pressure because you're low in magnesium. So you just need to make sure that you're eating healthy, balanced food. Stop eating the stuff that's causing the bad fats, that's causing, completely leave out high fructose corn syrup, which is so bad all the way around. Any hydrogenated oils, if you cut those 2 things out and add in healthy fats, lots of water, lots of nutrient dense food, some of these symptoms are going to go away on its own, and you're just going to feel better. I'm not saying that, for example, taking a magnesium drink at night is going to cure your high blood pressure, because you may need to walk more. You may need to, eat better all around. You may need more hydration. There's lots of things that are tied. You may need to lower your stress that are tied with high blood pressure. But having good doses and good balances of magnesium and hydration and all of these things that we've talked about helps a lot of these symptoms go away.
Well, Jody, we've covered 8 different ways that your check engine light comes on in your body. So just a quick refresher for people: leg cramps, burping, bloating, waking up at night, dry skin, depression, hormonal issues, frequent headaches. They all tie back to things that are, your check engine lights are going off, and saying that there's a problem there. And something that I want to mention, because you mentioned about how water, vitamin D, magnesium are in the top 3 of deficiencies people have. The only one thing that I want to caution people against is that don't treat your health like the pharmaceutical model, where you go, I have this kind of thing and I'm going to take this kind of drug or this kind of vitamin. Remember that whole foods and nutrition is about treating the body with all the things it needs on a regular basis. And these kinds of problems very rarely ever come up when you're doing that on a regular basis. So just want to leave you with that. Kevin Hunter and Jody Summers here on Health Kindness. I hope you enjoyed hearing about your check engine lights. If they're going off, make sure you pull over, get to the curb, and do something about it. Take care.
Bye-bye.